Hi, guys. Welcome to Winedown Wednesday. My name is Valerie McFadden. I am still working, so I'm doing the wind down live from my grooming table. Jake is not quite finished yet, but I'm going to be working on him while I'm doing the live stream here. So um, I am going to check really quickly to make sure that everything is shared properly and everyone is getting this on Facebook and Instagram really quickly. So bear with me for just a second. I'll be right back. I'm afraid if I toggle away from the screen, what'll happen? Let me see. If I mess up, I'll be back. How about that? Okay. Fingers crossed everything went well. If not, I'll share it later and everybody can catch it later on. So first things first, I am drinking, but not alcohol, obviously, because I'm still working. So I'm having a little Dr. Pepper, a little treat to myself. I'm trying to cut sugar out of my diet as much as I can, but tonight I figured I'm going to treat myself a little bit. So anyway, little fun fact about Dr. Pepper. I don't know if you know. Everyone always wonders whether they belong to Pepsi or Coke, but it turns out they actually belong to neither one. What happens is they don't have their own bottling company, so they contract with Coke and Pepsi to use their facilities that they use, and that's why Dr. Pepper bottles are shaped differently. So if it comes from a facility that bottles Coke, it's going to have the more narrow top, and if it comes from a facility that bottles Pepsi or 7 Up products, it's going to have this kind of shape where it's got the more bubbly top. So kind of an interesting little fun fact for your Wednesday evening, since I'm not drinking wine and I know nothing about wine. That's what I know about. So, um, okay. So let's see. I wanted to address something that came up in the California Professional Pet Groomers Association group a couple of weeks ago. Someone had asked a question in regards to um, licensing for mobile groomers. And, mobile groomers basically coming into other areas that were seemingly outside of their, I guess, territory would be the way to put it. Um, so basically, the thing with licensing with mobile groomers, and I know in that particular post, there was a lot of engagement and a lot of questions got answered and a lot of back and forth. But I kind of wanted to address a little bit. Um, all mobile businesses in California have to have a business license in every single city that they service. And I didn't realize that it was all mobile businesses. I thought that it was for some reason just mobile grooming. But I called a friend of mine who owns a fire protection company. And I know because I used to work for them too, um, that they have to have a license for every city that they go to, regardless of whether the people they send out have their contractors' licenses or what version of it they have, because they have people that do extinguishers, alarms, sprinklers. Everyone does kind of something specific. And every one of them have to have a specific license through the state of California. So I assumed that they wouldn't have to have that, but it turns out that they do. And it just, it's one of those things where if you go to some other city, you have to have some documentation stating that you're supposed to be there, and that you're operating a business legally in their city. Now, the thing that I did find out is that instead of having to have a business license specific for every city, you can get something called an out of city vendor permit. Now, what that is it's basically getting permission from the city saying that you're allowed to run your business or to perform your business in that city, but you don't have to pay for it as though you are established in that city. Like, I'm home based in the city that I live in, but because I'm mobile, I have that's where my business license is based out of, like my major one. But any of the other ones would be just like, hey, can I come in here and do this, in your city? And that usually is a little bit less expensive than doing the full business license. So always, to be on the safe side, call each city hall and talk to their business licensing department and see what they say, see what their regulations are, if they have, something specific, or if they have a different thing that you could do, always talk to them. And sometimes it's county. So it really just depends. I know LA County is a little different sometimes in their regulations for things. I'm in Orange County and I literally stop at the LA County line. I will not go any further. I don't want to go up in there. So that one I don't really know personally about. So But, again, obviously, and we all know whether we have a mobile business or a shop or whatever, we don't have licenses because we don't have like a state board like hairdressers do, where, we go in for a certain amount of hours of schooling and that sort of thing. Um, and then have to go in and take a test. And, it's funny. I was my sister's model for her state board test many, many years ago. And I just, it would be kind of interesting, I think, if we did something like that with dogs, but, we'll probably get there at some point. Right now we're just not quite there. So, um, the main licensing concerns are, obviously just making sure that your business stuff is in order. And any insurances, obviously, you want to make sure that you have, all your coverage and things like that. Uh, let's see what else. I wrote some stuff down, so I had some notes. Um, so yeah, that kind of covered like the licensing stuff. Another part of that post was asking about groomers coming from other areas. Now, here's the thing. When I first started uh, mobile, I was looking into, I was in all kinds of groups on Facebook. I was, just trying to get as much information as I possibly could. And the main guideline for having a mobile business is you want to kind of keep your home base as close to your home as possible. So they say like do a 10-mile radius. Well, that's great. And for most people that works, but in my case, I lose about 7 miles worth of where are you going? I lose about 7 miles worth of potential clients to the ocean. Not to show off, but um so basically, I have to take my business a little bit further north and east in order and south in order to kind of make up for the fact that I lose so much potential client area. Um, so I go a little bit further inland than people would necessarily think that I should. And I understand that, and I've actually like cut back my service area quite a bit. Um, just because like it got to a point where there are plenty of clients where I'm at. I do have, I have a good amount, and right now I'm taking new clients, but only on like a very limited basis. Like they have to want to be on a regular schedule, and they have to be somewhat close to the house, because now I can kind of like ask for that. Where in the beginning I felt like I had to go a little further out just because you know i I wanted to go where the money was. I mean, that's kind of like the general idea. Um, but the thing is, in that particular post, it kind of felt like the person asking the question felt like maybe mobiles were going like a little bit too far away from where they should be. Like I think they said it was like 75 miles away from their home base or what have you. And I'm just, it's one of those things where obviously people are going to go where they're wanted, where they're needed. I actually, when I worked at a shop, I had, it wasn't one of my clients, it was another coworker, but they had a couple that would bring their dog from San Diego to Fountain Valley, which is not it's a far drive. It's a good long drive. And I thought, wow, that's so crazy that they have, that they would come all this way just to get a haircut for their dog. But if you find somebody that you love and you find somebody that you trust with your pet, you're going to kind of go out of your way to make sure that they're the ones that do the work on your animal. And I think it might be, a little bit of the same, sometimes with the mobiles. Um, when, you want to go and, you have someone that calls you and says, hey, I want you to come and groom my dog. And you're like, okay, well, if they're going to pay for you to come all the way out, and they do it for the right price, then great. You know, a lot of times there is an extra travel fee involved, which is, that's fine. Let them charge a little more for that. But also, you have to keep in mind that shop clients are going to be different than mobile clients. I had a lady today, actually, brand new client. I've never seen this dog before. She is the neighbor of one of my other clients, and she had called and said, she wanted me to come out and groom her dog. So I did. And she's gone to shops forever. But when she comes to the door, she has this teeny tiny little elderly, puppy not puppy. I'm sorry. She was, like 10 pounds and, probably about 13 or 14 years old. Um, and she was just like, we've gone to shops forever, and she wanted to try mobile because she felt like it was just too stressful at this point on her dog. And you'll find that, you'll have clients that come in and, they want to try something different. And sometimes they'll go back to the shop, and sometimes they'll find that, mobile is the route that they want to take, you know. It just depends. Everyone has their reasons for different choosing different businesses for stuff. And the same goes for anything. It's like you can have, you know, I mean, look at us, it's like we have sharpening, and there are so many sharpeners to choose from. Do you take your stuff to someone that you can drop your equipment off with and have it back, the next day? Or do you have a guy, in another state that you ship your stuff off to because, that's just who you choose to use, So everyone's Jake's getting tired. But everyone has their different reasons for using different businesses. And I just feel like, you know, honestly, people are going to make the decisions they're going to make. And we just kind of have to roll with it. And we have to remember that there are a ton of groomers out there, but there are even more dogs out there. And there are so many pets, dogs, cats, most households have more than one. I've got many, and I know most of us do too. Uh, so it's all just going to kind of be, personal choice for people. They've got their different reasons for choosing stuff. So, let's see what else. Oh yeah, so let's go back a little bit to the doing the 10-mile radius around the house thing. So basically the idea behind that is really just more um making sure that you don't, put too much wear and tear on your vehicle, because these things, they're expensive, and you don't want to be driving it in all over the place looking to drum up business. And also, let's see. Oh yeah, and keeping things, closer together. If all of your clients are spread out, all over the county, then it's going to be really hard to make really succinct routes, to make a really tight route. Um, I do try to keep my, at least in a day, I'll try to keep everyone in a very short or a very small service area that particular day. Like in my town that I live in, I'll work on one side of town all day long, or I'll work on the other side of town all day long. But I won't usually, I don't want to go back and forth and, zipping across town. And I really weak if I don't have to. That's a pain in the butt. Um, but let's see. So um, at this point, I've actually been on the road for about 8 years, and I was checking my mileage earlier today so I could kind of talk about it a little. And I have got 68,000 miles on my van, and that's pretty impressive because my daily driver, which is actually newer than this, has almost 90,000. So that's a lot of miles, and it's really easy to do that to your vehicles. And in these, when you're driving, all over the ends of the earth, gas is expensive. I just went, was it yesterday, and spent $4.40 a gallon on the cheap stuff. I was not pleased about that, but there's really not a whole lot we can do about it right now. So anyway, I think that's going to about wrap it up. I wanted to do a quick reminder that we have on October 12th, we have Cali Groom South in the City of Industry at the Wags Warehouse, where you guys can come out. We're having grooming competition where they're going to do poodles, freestyle, and all other purebred, I believe. I think one of the classes is full and there's a wait list, but we still have some openings in a couple of the other ones. So hop onto the CPPGA website, and go ahead and check that out and see what's still available if you're interested. Also, that same day, I am going to be hosting a CPR class, the 5-hour Pet Tech CPR class. We're planning it so that by the end of the day, the class lets out in time for all of the students to go in and watch the Best in Show awards for the best haircut of the day. So anyway, have a great night, you guys. Thank you so much for stopping in and watching my little video, and we'll see you guys in a couple months, but you'll see someone else next week. Thank you.